Hello everyone and welcome to our live stream for tonight, getting started with Web3 dApp development. I'm very excited to bring you this webinar. My name is Alexandra. I'll be hosting this webinar tonight, and I'm also the instructor for our Web3 course. So any questions you have about the course, tonight is the perfect place to ask anything you wanted to know about the Web3 dApp development space. We'll also give you some overviews of these topics. We'll talk about dApps and Web3, and we'll talk about what you'll learn in the course. It's a very exciting summer semester, so if you want to have a productive summer, then come to Lumiwealth for a bunch of courses that we're hosting this summer, one of them being Web3. Tomorrow we have another webinar about blockchain, which is along very similar lines. So if you want to learn even more, then please come back tomorrow for another free webinar all about our blockchain course, which we are also running this summer. So we'll have these two courses in parallel, Web3 as well as blockchain. So if you're interested in the whole blockchain space, then these two courses should be of interest. All right, so let's dive into our agenda for the night. First, we'll introduce Lumiwealth and we'll get to know some of you on the call. Then we'll dive into some broad topics relating to the course. So that way you kind of get your feet wet and you learn a bit about what these topics are and what the course actually means. Because maybe you've seen the course title, maybe you've read the description, but you probably don't have much experience working with any of these tools like Web3 or building dApps. So we're going to give you a bird's eye view of what all this terminology means and what this course is all about. And then, of course, in the summer, we'll actually dive into building projects and all of the industry topics much deeper. But tonight, you're just going to be scratching the surface. So we'll talk about web development, dApps, and Web3 tonight, because all three of these topics are interrelated and they will be covered in our Web3 course this summer. First, let's talk about Lumiwealth. So we want to tell you a bit about our online school here at Lumiwealth. We teach many different courses from Web3 and blockchain, as well as machine learning and algorithmic trading and AI. So check out all of our courses at lumiwealth.com. You can see we primarily focus on the financial industry and the financial space, but also branching out to other topics as well, such as blockchain, Web3, which are very closely related to the financial space. So I'm very excited to be bringing you Web3 tonight. You can also watch back this recording on Circle or on YouTube. So I encourage you to find our YouTube channel. You can just search up Lumiwealth or follow the link that I can drop in the chat. Right here, we're going to be posting this recording. We also post shorts like with interviews and some sample tutorials, as well as a bunch of free classes. So please subscribe to us on YouTube at Lumiwealth. Of course, if you're watching this live, you know we have a Circle community, lumiwealth.circle.so, where you can chat and make posts and watch back recordings like this one and watch live events. We still have a Discord channel as well, kind of like a secondary location. So I'll drop a link to our Discord if you want to find us there. Completely free to join our Circle group and our Discord channel. And you can ask questions and check out some projects, get help for anyone, even if you're not in a course currently. And please ask questions throughout this presentation. We're happy to answer any questions. We'll also have time at the end. So my name is Alexandra, and I am the instructor for the Web3 course and the blockchain course. I'm also a CTO at Mammoth Interactive. So I've been in the online education space since around 2016. So I'm very passionate about teaching students like you online, especially with the latest most interesting topics like blockchain, Web3, and we're bringing in AI as well into our courses, including Web3. So I'm excited to incorporate new technologies as these fields evolve. So we will be adding AI to our Web3 course, which is very exciting for me this summer. Because as anyone who wants to work in the technology space, you do have to be constantly upgrading. So that's why we bring to you these online courses, because of the nature of rapidly developing space that is tech in general. All right, so now let's dive into our first exciting project of the night. So I'm going to be showing you a project preview to start off and hopefully get you excited. This is one of the projects that we'll actually be building in our course. It's a simple dApp that we can take a look at here. So in this dApp, you'll be learning how to build something exactly like this from scratch in our Web3 course. So let's boost up the quality, right? This is an example of an NFT minting dApp where you have a website that you'll be building, and this website could be any website really, whatever your project is. In this case, it is a website specifically to mint or create NFT tokens. And so we will be building out the website, and then we will be connecting the website to the blockchain. And how this is done depends on your project. You might be connecting to a cryptocurrency wallet, so all your users can pay for transactions on your site. Or you might be connecting to a smart contract that lives on the blockchain, which is like an automated process that is running on the blockchain. We'll talk more about smart contracts and how the blockchain works tomorrow night in tomorrow's webinar. But for Web3, we're focusing on the web side. So it's more focused on the user and getting a broad audience for your projects or your software, because the whole point of Web3 or dApps is to make smart contracts and just blockchain technologies, whatever kind of blockchain technology you're connecting to. The whole point is to make it more accessible, because most people around the world know how to use a website or a mobile app, or even something like a video game could be a dApp. And so our goal as Web3 developers, as dApp developers, is to build existing familiar technology like a website and to make that website the window to the blockchain so that anyone around the world can access blockchain technology through the website. Because you could go directly to the blockchain, you could interact with smart contracts directly, or access crypto directly on the blockchain. But it's much easier for your audience, and it's much easier to get a large audience if you have something like a dApp, like a website, that just allows users to click and type to connect to the blockchain. Otherwise, they would have to have some knowledge of programming, and therefore you would limit your audience. So the goal of dApps is to build like this window to the blockchain. So in this example, the website allows anyone to come and to mint new tokens. So once you enter in some information like what is the name of the token that you want to mint, in this case it's blue because it's for tokens in different colors, the user will enter in some information and then press mint. And your website is then going to connect to the blockchain and run some process on the blockchain. In this case, it's minting a token or creating a new token, which is just a representation of an asset on the blockchain. And so that is the job of the website, to allow users to just very easily perform complex tasks on the blockchain. So the user, depending on the action, if they want to change something on the blockchain, they have to sign the transaction, which you can see here on screen. Signing a transaction means they have to pay for the transaction with a small amount of crypto in order to pay for the actual process to run on the blockchain. And also, this signs the action with their address, which is like their username or their account ID in a way. And that's because we need to track who has done what on the blockchain and make it publicly available, as is the nature of transparency on almost all blockchains, or at least in the typical sense when you hear blockchains like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, Cardano, all of those. So the website connects to the user's cryptocurrency wallet where they have some crypto in order to perform the transaction. And the website can connect to the wallet through a browser extension. This is a very popular one here called MetaMask, which is being used. And this is just one example of a dApp. Another example is you could have a mobile app. Mobile app connects to your cryptocurrency wallet through another app. But in general, the whole idea is you have some easy interface where a large audience can come and they can execute tasks. On the surface, it just looks like a website, but behind the scenes, the code that we will be writing is to actually run processes on the blockchain. Now, if the users want to just see some information, then that's completely free. You don't have to sign or pay to just see information. For example, something like OpenSea, which any of you may have seen. You can go to opensea.com, check it out. Something like OpenSea, you can visit the website and you can see a bunch of NFTs. And just to see the NFTs that have been created is completely free because you're not actually changing anything on the blockchain. So that's one example of a dApp where you just show information that exists on the blockchain. On OpenSea, it's specifically just for NFT type contracts, so we only can see NFTs, but you can build your own site to show other types of contracts or processes that live on the blockchain. So in this case, what you see on screen, the user has to connect to their wallet because they actually want to change something on the blockchain. For example, if I want to create a new smart contract or create a new process, or I want to buy a product with cryptocurrency, or I want to create my own NFT, well, all of those things, they change the blockchain, so they get that action that you want to do, it gets permanently stored on the blockchain, and so you do have to pay for those kinds of interactions. So here we can see the user in this demo is going to confirm, and then they'll get a feedback response on the website that they were able to mint the token. Now, the token minting is all done on the blockchain. In this course, we will focus on the Ethereum blockchain, which is the #1 for building dApps. And so all the minting is actually done with another piece of software with Ethereum. The website is just triggering Ethereum to create the token and then to send the response when the token is created. And so you can see here now, when the token is successfully created, you can see a representation of it. In this case, it just says blue and the owner of the token. So it's nothing fancy, but of course we could style this website up, make it look better. But for MVP, just minimum viable product, we keep it simple like this with minimal styling, and we focus on functionality first and foremost. So this was an example of a dApp that was running where the user comes to the website, they want to do something on the blockchain, so they click around on the website to trigger the action. They likely have to pay for the transaction with a small amount of crypto with their cryptocurrency wallet, and if they get success, then the website shows the result. And you can verify the result by going to the blockchain that the dApp is using, whatever blockchain it connected to, and you can verify that that action really happened. And that's due to the transparency of blockchains, where every action that occurs is permanently stored on the blockchain itself. So every time someone mints a token with this dApp, Ethereum is going to track that and say when it was minted, who minted it. As you can see, that owner ID is who minted it, and what was the smart contract or what code did the minting. Because all blockchains run on code. Same thing with dApps. They also run, or they're built with code. So we will be learning how to code from scratch in our course. So here we can continue watching. You can mint something like green, continue the same process, and the user is able to mint another token. And you can see my minted tokens versus all tokens if you had a bunch of different users coming to the app. So this is one project example of a simple dApp. dApps can range from a simple beginner project like this to, of course, something much more complex like a whole online school or a whole banking system that's run on the blockchain. We'll see some more examples of dApps coming up. Of course, we'll be starting with simple projects as everyone learns how to code. I assume that my students will be first-time coders. That is usually the case, but we'll see. It depends on the audience or the students that I get each semester. And most likely, though, we will be starting from completely simple beginner projects, because usually I do expect beginners. And we work our way up each week over the 10 weeks of the course. That's right, this course is supersized. It is 10 weeks long rather than our usual 8, at no extra cost, but extra 2 weeks, because there's a lot to learn, of course. So any questions about this dApp that we just looked at? If anyone has a question anytime, please drop it in the chat. If you want a link to the slides or to the course, then also feel free to ask. Happy to share anytime. All right, so next let's talk about web development. Because as you might have guessed from our project preview, web development is often and usually involved in building dApps. Okay, I have a commenter asking for a link. All right, I will share a link to the slides in the chat. Okay, there we go. And then also a link to the website with the actual course. Okay, let me know if you're able to see that link dropped in the chat. I'll just drop a bunch. Okay. So usually a dApp is a website. That's the most common form of a dApp today. Of course, you could make any piece of software connect to the blockchain, because the blockchain is a piece of software. And so you can just connect the two softwares together. Software meaning something that was built with code. So in our course, we're going to be focused on building websites that are dApps. And that's because this is the easiest way to start your journey of building dApps. There's the most support, tutorials, documentation. Just in general, this is the most common way today that we see dApps. So in our course, we will begin in week 1 by learning the basics of how to build a website. We'll be learning 3 tools called HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Later on in the course, we'll also add another tool called React. But in week 1, we'll start with learning HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. These are 3 tools that every web developer learns at the very start of their journey. So, assuming that the students don't have experience yet in these tools, we'll be learning HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. If I get more advanced students, we will start at a more advanced level, but usually I expect that we have complete beginners. And you can check out on the course page, the course curriculum. If you slow down or scroll down, you can see in week 1, it's listed out here at lumiwealth.com. Week 1, we introduce HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So that is the basics of building a website with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. We'll be using those 3 tools to learn how to just set up a regular app or website. Then later on in the course, we add a decentralized layer. But a website or whatever app you have, it forms the base layer of your dApp. Then on top of that, you add the connection to the blockchain. So first we need to learn how to build the base layer of different apps, and then we can add decentralization on top. And we'll talk more about that later on. So we'll start with HTML, which is a markup language. It's used to build page elements. Every single website that you've ever been to uses HTML. And HTML is used to structure what you see on a page. So to state what elements are on the page. And then every website is actually secretly an HTML file. Even this website you see here, Google Slides, or Google Docs. This website that we're showing on screen, this is actually secretly an HTML file. It has text, it has images, it has buttons, and more. So that's how every website is built. Then another tool called CSS. This is a styling language. It's used to add style to a page. So for every web page, if you see a different font, or if you see colors on the page, or if you see different sizes, different elements positioned differently, all of that is styled with CSS. So every single web designer or web developer, they begin their journey with HTML and CSS. And with those two tools, you can build a web page. This would be something like a landing page, which just displays information, and then you can put it on the web, and people can go to it at a URL, like mywebsite.com. If you want to add functionality to your site, you have to learn a programming language. And most common one for the web is JavaScript, which we will also be learning. See here, number 3. JavaScript is a programming or coding language, and it's used to build functionality of websites. So HTML and CSS, you can just set up a page, make it look nice. But if you want it to actually do something, you have to use a coding language like JavaScript. 99% of websites today, they all use JavaScript. So JavaScript powers the web in this case. If you want to submit values into a form and then collect the form data, if you want to send a user to another page, if you want to play a video, all those different interactive, dynamic elements of websites, they're all built with JavaScript. So that's why these 3 tools, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, they're fundamental to every web developer. So we will be learning how to code in JavaScript from scratch in this course. If you have experience in another coding language, that will give you a heads up, or head start rather, because a lot of coding languages, most of them actually, share similar themes, similar keywords, similar structures. So if you have experience in any other language, like Python, for example, or C#, then that will give you a leg up. But if you have no experience, that's also fine. Usually my students have 0 experience, so we do start from scratch. So then, once we know the tools to build a website, we can add decentralization on top. And this turns your app into a dApp. Later on, we'll also learn how to use React, which is another fundamental tool for web developers. And this is later on in the course, about halfway, when we learn how to build more complex sites. Because as our websites get more complex, we have to organize them with more sophisticated tools. So we add React to our toolkit as our tool number 4. And so you're still actually going to be using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. You just also add React on top. So we'll see that about halfway in the middle of the course. Once we know how to just build regular sites, then we can add connection to the blockchain. And this brings me to our next topic, dApps. So let's define what are dApps in the first place. So a dApp is an app that connects to the blockchain somehow. And this is actually a huge range of projects that can be called dApps. For example, if you have a website where users can sign in through their cryptocurrency wallet instead of their email, that's already a dApp because you have an app like a website where there's some kind of connection to decentralized technology. In this case, it would be the connection to your cryptocurrency wallet. which stores your crypto. But it also acts as your unique identifier on a blockchain. So it can act as your global account for that blockchain. Currently, today, the most popular form of decentralized technology is blockchain technology. But later on in the years, I expect we'll see more types of decentralized technology using this concept of decentralization, where you have a piece of technology with no centralized entity. If you want to learn more about how blockchains work, then please come back tomorrow, because we're going to be talking about our blockchain course, which dives deeper into how the blockchain actually works behind the scenes. But tonight we're talking more about what is in front of the curtain, what our users will see, how we get the large audience, and that's with dApps. Tomorrow we'll talk about behind the scenes, what's actually happening on the blockchain itself. So the dApp is like the window, the user interface, what your audience will use. And the dApp connects behind the scenes to a blockchain. So you kind of have these two halves to your projects. You have the user-facing side, which is the dApps, and then you also have more of the hidden side, which is what's running on the blockchain. It's not actually hidden. Anyone can go to the blockchain and they can see all your code because blockchains are transparent. Anyone can see your code and what's been running when you created it, any updates or new versions. If the blockchain allows for new versions, some of them actually don't allow for any changes. But it's called hidden because users most likely will not be looking at it, because most of your users are going to be just basic level users that maybe don't have much experience with programming, but they can use a website. So that's the whole point of making a dApp, is to access the largest possible audience that can use our blockchain projects. Otherwise, our projects would live on the blockchain and you'd have to directly access it on the blockchain, which requires a higher level of experience and coding. So that's the definition of a dApp. dApps operate autonomously, which means they're actually run automatically and they run on their own. This is in contrast with a regular website or traditional app, non-decentralized, where websites are run by companies. For example, this website that we're showing here, Google Docs, to show this presentation, or even Circle or Google Slides, right? These apps traditionally are centralized, which means they're run by companies. So companies write code, and that code is what runs the app. And at any point, the company can change the code. They can take the website off the internet. They can hide different parts of the code. They can see your data, control your usage, or track your usage. So that's traditional apps. dApps operate autonomously because they actually function in a different way. They're actually not run by any company. They run on their own by the blockchain. So instead of being managed by a central entity like a company, your dApp is actually being run autonomously. And it's also out of your control in that sense. You have less control of your dApps because it's run on a public and transparent software called the blockchain, rather than on a private, centralized piece of software like a web server. So that's what makes dApps interesting, popular, and a new, exciting type of technology, because they do operate, they run in a different way. They're much more public and transparent. And in general, they're less controlled by central entities. So the user has more of a say, more control, and just more knowledge about what they're using. Okay, we also have a question from Emmanuel. After this session, can you provide best options and practice for local development environment for Web3 or Solidity development? Sure thing. Best options in practice. Yes, we will be doing a lot of practice in our course. You can take a look here at our curriculum. Around week 2, we get into setting up our first decentralized app. So we will be looking at local development environments in week 2. So for that, we'll be using Node and NPM, and we'll be also using Truffle. So we will be using Truffle, which is one tool for dApp development. And we can use Truffle to manage our dApps. We can use it to manage our blockchain side, the smart contracts, if we have any. And we can also use it to manage the website. And then we can put Truffle onto a local blockchain called Ganache, which is a local development environment. Ganache clones Ethereum on your computer to give you a temporary mimicking of a blockchain that you can really quickly and cheaply or for free, you can test out your projects. And we'll also use MetaMask as our cryptocurrency wallet to test out the website. So that's one example of a local development environment. So I recommend looking into Truffle. I can drop a link in the chat. Let's see here, Truffle. Okay, just look up Truffle dApps and trufflesuite.com. I recommend this as a great starting point for a local development environment. Truffle Suite also created Ganache, so they work very easily together. So if you're looking for a place to get started, then yes, I highly recommend using Truffle. We will be starting with Truffle ourselves, as you can see around week 2. And we'll be using Ganache as a clone of Ethereum. So it's kind of like taking the code for Ethereum, which is the blockchain that we'll be using, and creating a copy of it from scratch. So it's completely fresh and new, starting from 0 on your computer. And you can test out your smart contracts, your dApps interacting with your own clone of Ethereum, because that way it's free and it's fast. And then once you've tested your project, you're happy with it, you can send it off to the real Ethereum. And you know that you can do it in the same exact way because Ganache is a clone. So you just make a few minimal changes to how you send the project because you're going to send it to Ethereum instead of Ganache. Now there's also another tool for local development called Hardhat. It's a bit more advanced though, but if you want another option manual, then hardhat.org. Similar to Truffle, but it's a bit more advanced, so I wouldn't recommend it for complete beginners, but it's another option. So Hardhat, kind of same thing. It allows you to manage your projects. And in fact, you can go to the site, hardhat.org right here. So Hardhat allows you to manage your smart contracts, your dApps all in one project, and allows you to do things like create smart contracts, send them to Ethereum, or send them to a local clone of Ethereum for testing. That way you can test for free. You don't have to make any crypto payments. And just in general, connect your dApp to a clone. So those are 2 tools. I do recommend starting with Truffle at trufflesuite.com right here. Has a lot of documentation and guides. So I would recommend starting with Truffle as your local development environment. And if you want something more advanced, then go to Hardhat. Now, in terms of Solidity for building smart contracts, you can come back tomorrow. We'll talk more about Solidity tomorrow, actually, and we'll write some Solidity code. But for Solidity, to practice, I recommend going to Remix, remix.ethereum.org. I can drop a link in the chat. Here you can start coding in Solidity. You can take a look at some examples. You can also run the code. You can compile it and you can deploy it to a local blockchain or, again, a clone just for testing, which is completely free. Then when you're happy with your project, you send it off to the real Ethereum. And so for Solidity development, specifically just the smart contracts, I do recommend Remix, which you can see on screen here. All right, so hopefully that answered your question about best options and practice for local development environments. Let me know if you want more explanation or have any other questions. Very happy to answer at any point. So those are some tools. Don't worry if you didn't understand all the tools that we talked about. Of course, I kind of just threw them all at you just so you have a reference. But in our course Web3 and in tomorrow talk about the blockchain course, we will be explaining all these tools and how to use them from scratch. So don't worry if you don't understand everything that we're talking about today, because we only have a short amount of time tonight. That's why we designed this course to be extra long, 10 weeks, so that we have this 2 bonus weeks where we can cover all of these different tools. All right, so those were all tools that are used to build dApps. All the stuff we talked about, Hard Hat, Truffle, Remix, etc. All of those are used to create dApps. And so in this course, in the summer, we're going to learn how to use these various tools, how to code in order to build out some sample projects. Because hands-on projects are the best way to learn, and they also help you start your portfolio so you can actually have something to show for. Now, there's a huge range of dApps that you can create, varying upon the industry you want to do, what industry you want to connect to the blockchain, all the way from real estate to music to video games to streaming. So any type of app can be converted to a dApp, because essentially the purpose of the app can be the same. Like you could have an app for recommending videos or for showing videos. So you could have, for example, a clone of YouTube, but the actual operations for YouTube, they're done by the YouTube Google servers. So they're controlled, managed by a central entity, YouTube and its owners. But you could build a clone where it looks the same, functions the same, but all the operations are done on the blockchain. You might be thinking, why would I bother putting my operations on a blockchain? Well, the reason is for all the benefits of a decentralized technology. For example, one thing we already talked about is that dApps, they run autonomously. So we talked about that before, where your users have more trust and there's more transparency in the operations because they're all run on the blockchain, whichever one you choose, most likely Ethereum, at least for starting out. It's the most popular one. And so therefore your users can see what's happening behind the scenes, what's being done with their data, and what's the code behind your website, the code behind the actual operations. Because for YouTube, we can't actually see the code, the data, who is watching what, who's uploading what. Well, we can see that, but it's not tracking who deleted what, whereas the blockchain would track absolutely everything that has ever been changed. So whatever you write in your smart contract, which is essentially the code that is running your operation. So if you wanted to, in your YouTube contract, you could write that you want to track when there are new uploads, when someone deletes a video, when someone comments. All of those can be stored on the blockchain. And we also have more reliable storage when we use storage of events on the blockchain. So that's why we commonly see smart contracts and dApps used for business processes like shipments that are complex, where we frequently have gaps or missing data, missing information, like lost shipments. Because it's easy to lose data or to have a gap in a process if you're using traditional technology compared to the blockchain technology, where there's more permanent and reliable storage. If you want to learn more about how that all actually works, come back tomorrow. We will talk more about blockchains. So that's one reason that you would take a website and turn it into a dApp, or that you would build a dApp from scratch. due to this autonomous operation, the transparency. You can also incorporate crypto into your sites if you want to, for example, have an online store that allows payment, one form of payment as crypto. Then that would be an example of a dApp. And one benefit is that you can now access more customers because you have a new payment option. So there's a huge variety of projects you can build and lots of reasons why you would want to put your app or your business, your operations onto the blockchain. It kind of depends on your industry. Like for what we mentioned, shipment tracking, business tracking, that kind of company might want to put operations onto the blockchain so that there is more reliable tracking, things like shipments and steps in a complex business process. Something like an online shop might want to use the blockchain to allow cryptocurrency payments. Something like an organization might want to become a decentralized organization to allow for more transparent and user-based voting and proposals. Something like a video game might want to use the blockchain so that they can connect to NFTs and then allow for different items in the video game if you own that item on the blockchain. So it really depends on your project, your industry use case. We see this kind of technology incorporated into all kinds of industries, as we've already seen, as we've already mentioned, everything from e-commerce to music. Because most industries today, almost all of them really, they use software, they use some kind of code. And as soon as you have code, you can connect it to other code. So you can take the code for your operations and you can connect them to the code of the blockchain. So essentially that's how dApps are created. That's how you add a decentralized layer, is with the connection of code. So that's why we will be learning how to code and how to do all those connections with different projects in this course. Any questions about dApps in general before we move on to our next topic, Web3? Manuel's commenting real estate. Yes, there's many opportunities and I've seen many projects incorporating real estate into blockchain technology. Usually that would be for transparency behind documents and sales, and also to eliminate third parties when performing transactions. We'll talk more about that tomorrow, where for many transactions, especially large ones, with traditional technology, these transactions would require third parties to establish trust in a valid transaction. Like if I'm buying a house, I'd want to use my notaries, my lawyers, my bank to establish trust, write a contract. Both parties can sign it, make sure it's legal and official. And with those kinds of traditional transactions, especially in real estate, we can incorporate smart contracts which run on a blockchain to perform all of those transactions automatically, autonomously, and still keep that same trust because the blockchain is transparent. And a lot of times, once you decide on your smart contract, you cannot change the contract. So that makes it more reliable because you know it won't be changed at last second. So that's another way that we see the blockchain in real estate, is to perform transactions with fewer third parties. AG is asking, what was the first dApp ever? Gosh, interesting question. I'm not actually sure. I mean, I know a very popular one is OpenSea, used to sell NFTs. First one ever. Well, Ethereum was actually the first blockchain to allow for smart contracts. So it would have to have been some dApp that connected to Ethereum, probably just some example dApp created by likely, well, I'm not actually sure, but it would have to have been Ethereum. It'd be fun to look up. Let's see here. So OpenSea is a very popular one today. Also running on Ethereum for viewing, buying, selling, creating NFTs. Of course, very popular because there is a lot of hype around NFTs, but the technology actually goes much farther, much beyond cryptos and NFTs. You can put any kind of operation on the blockchain in the form of a smart contract. Everything from a bank to a school to a store, all those business operations written with code, that can be put onto the blockchain. We just see the most popular use cases today are cryptos and NFTs. But in our course, we will show you, more of of course, we'll show you some popular projects like cryptos and NFTs, but we will go beyond that and show you some more industrial, or not industrial, but industry use cases. You can see here in our course curriculum. So we will show examples like NFT minting, but also go beyond that and look at how to build other dApps like to-do lists. You take a look at examples of online stores and how to add AI. So there's a lot of opportunity, lots of different projects you can make. But yes, Ethereum was the first blockchain to actually invent the whole concept of smart contracts and therefore dApps. So that's why Ethereum is the most popular blockchain for smart contracts and dApps. Though there are many other blockchains that do pop up all the time, like we will take a look at other blockchains like Solana. If you know how to work with one blockchain, then it's easy to transition to another one because the core technology follows the same structure because they're all blockchains. But then there is just differences in how the individual blockchains were made and how they might function, how you can connect to them. But in general, focus on Ethereum as it is the most widely supported. So it's the easiest to learn and to find help and find examples. And then once you're comfortable with using Ethereum, then you can transfer your knowledge to another blockchain if you need to. Usually we are using Ethereum, but you might get hired at another company or might want to get a grant from some new blockchain or might want to try another blockchain on your own. So we will be teaching you how to do that at the end, week 10. Same thing with programming. Once we are comfortable with JavaScript, we can use another coding language. We can transfer our skills because the core foundations will be the same across all programming languages, just the specifics that will be different. So we chose the most popular tools today for this course. That way you can find the most examples, most help online, most documentation, more tools, because these are the most popular ones like Solidity, Ethereum, Truffle, MetaMask. All of these are the most popular ones today. All right, great questions, everybody. All right, now we'll talk about Web3 because it is in the course title. So Web3 refers to the next phase of the web. Currently, we're in the phase of Web 2. Web 3 is a new phase that aims to improve the web, how websites are made, and therefore how the internet functions. So back when the internet was first created, we were in the phase of Web 1.0, where there were not that many users, there were not that many developers, not much data passed around. Then by the year 2000, we entered phase Web 2, where we have more developers, more users, more websites, also more data being generated, especially by social media sites. But Web 2 is not perfect, has many issues like identity frauds, thefts, frauds, as well as companies that have large monopolies over industries, which make it hard for the user to have control, as well as for small companies to get started and to compete. We also see, not much user control, especially over their data, what is done with their data. So there's a lot of issues with Web 2, ways that it could be improved. And so Web 3 aims to improve how websites are made. Currently, the number one way that this next iteration of websites is created is through the use of decentralized technology to make the web more transparent, more secure, fewer hacks due to the cryptographic nature of blockchains, to make the web more decentralized so that processes are more transparent. So that's what we call Web3, this next phase of building websites. So if you have experience building websites, then likely you have built traditional websites for Web 2.0. But of course, every developer, everyone working in technology has to stay sharp with the latest tools that do come out, every week it seems, where we have new tools like Web3, JS, and blockchain technology. We now have a lot of AI this year and in the past year. And so the whole goal of Web3 is to improve how websites are made, in general, how apps are made even, like mobile apps, because they also do use the web a lot of the time. And so currently the number one way is with dApps, or decentralized technology. But I expect in the future we'll see more technology, of course, that will also improve the web and just change the nature of how the internet runs. So that is what we mean when we talk about Web3. It's new types of technology used to improve upon websites. And therefore, Web3 is sometimes called the next phase of the internet. Web3.js is just one tool that we will be seeing. It's a JavaScript library for connecting to the blockchain. So there are many different tools that we'll be learning. Again, we're focusing on the most popular ones. For example, Web3.js. This allows you to use JavaScript to take your app and connect it to the blockchain. So don't worry if you don't understand all the terminology tonight, because we will be covering all the tools and how they work from scratch in the summer. So I don't expect you to understand everything tonight, because we have a limited time compared to our 10 weeks in the summer. All right, then I have an example of how to build a dApp. This is just a project sequence. Now, I don't expect you to understand much of this, but if you do have prior experience with any technology, then perhaps you'll be able to understand these steps. So by the end of our 10 weeks, you'll be comfortable with taking these 10 steps and further for building your own dApps. So you'll be learning a lot of different technologies in a project-based way. So almost every week we focus on building a project or continuing a project. So that way we actually have some working apps at the end. So each week we focus on building some example apps. All right. To sign up, please go to lumiwealth.com. I can drop a link in the chat again. Go to the Web3 page and you can sign up today. You can also read more about the course description. This summer, we're actually adding AI with ChatGPT. It's very exciting because we've taught this course and the blockchain course for about a year now. Started last year. And this summer, we're bringing some new twist, some new topics. We're going to be talking about how to use ChatGPT, how to use OpenAI to do things like generate code, generate images, for things like smart contracts, NFTs, how to generate media. So I'm very excited to integrate some AI, artificial intelligence, into our courses. Here on this course page, you can read more about different tools that we'll be using. You can also see the whole course curriculum. So this course is supersized with a free bonus 2 weeks. So in total, it is 10 weeks long. So you can see what you learn every single week here on our course page. We start from the very basics and we work our way up every single week. And we will have a short break about the halfway point of the course so you can catch up on projects. But in general, the course lasts about 10 weeks. So here's a couple projects that we'll be building, but we actually build a lot more than just this. These are just the 2 highlights. We have 3 different plans. We have self-directed live classes and project help or tutoring. We also provide invoices for employer reimbursement, and we have payment plans available, so you don't have to pay all at once. So we have these 3 options. Self-directed means you can access our entire video library. Now, what's special about Lumiwealth is we actually give you all the previous, current, and future semesters. So unlike a university where you just get the current semester, here we actually give you all semesters of past, present, and future. With live classes, we meet every Wednesday, and we actually go over topics live. So if you want extra motivation to watch, and if you want to be able to ask questions live and even do some live debugging or support, if you want to share your screen to get some live feedback on your coding right away, then I recommend the live classes. We also have project help or tutoring if you want extra time after classes for one-on-one help building a specific project, or if you want just extra tutoring. So we have these 3 different options for how you can watch the course. And we have lots of perks along the way for each of the different options here. To sign up, you just add a course to your cart. For the live classes, you can select upcoming live classes. So we meet every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, which is 5 p.m. Pacific, same time that we started this webinar today. And each week we meet for 2 hours live over Zoom. All right, so you just select your course and you can go to your cart. If you add another course, then you can automatically get 10% off. Best complimentary course is the blockchain one in this case because it is in the same space. Then you can proceed to checkout and you can select if you want to pay with a payment plan or if you want to pay right away. You have the option right there. Then you can place your order and you'll immediately have access to our existing video library and our existing code base of projects. So you can actually see and run all the projects that we've built before and that we have upcoming. And if you're in my live classes or tutoring plans, then you'll get a special link to start watching on our first live week. So we will all meet together live on Wednesdays. Otherwise, you can just do self-directed and you can just watch along on your own time without meeting live. All right, so to get prepared for the summer, you can place your order and you can start watching some of the videos that we have from previous semesters. You can also go to those links that I shared previously for Emmanuel's question. And I'm very excited to see you all in the summer. If you don't want to prepare, then that's fine. Just come directly week 1. You don't actually need any prior background. But if you do want to get a head start, then you can. If anyone has questions, then please ask away. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. You can also email our support team anytime, alicia@lumiwealth.com. And you can message us on Circle. Feel free to send us a direct message or just make a post if you have any questions about the course or about payments, then please feel free to reach out. Otherwise, I'm very excited to join you all, see you all on week 1. Now, don't forget, tomorrow we have a free webinar all about the blockchain. So tomorrow, same time, we'll be talking about blockchain programming. It's a different course, different topics, but very similar in terms of the industry, because where the Web3 is the user-facing side, blockchain is the actual operations. So if you do want to become a Web3 developer, you get the most knowledge if you do have knowledge of both of these courses. But of course, you can start with one or take both at the same time. It's up to you. But yes, I encourage you, please come back, join me tomorrow, and we'll talk more about the blockchain. Otherwise, thanks everyone for watching tonight and asking some great questions. Hope to see you online. Feel free to reach out anytime. And yes, if no one has further questions, then we've reached the end of tonight's free webinar at Lumiwealth. I had a great time showing off some projects and talking about some beginner concepts about Web3, and of course, answering your fun questions. Thanks so much, everyone. Emmanuel, AG, GC, all my live watchers. Thanks so much, and we'll stop the webinar here, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye, everyone.